Greetings, friends! Welcome to Season 2 of Free Range Thinking. Join us in our cozy recording caves and dive into some interesting topics and rabbit holes around the topic of neurodiversity with us. I'm Alex Carr.
And I'm Sharon Lee. And every week we serve up a delicious buffet of neurodivergent topics, discussions, questions, and explorations around the subject of living as a neurodivergent human.
Yeah, and talking about every week, starting with 2023, we want to publish one episode on Tuesdays. That is the one that is recorded recently, freshly, in this week. And then there will be a second episode that will be launched on weekends, on Friday or Saturday. And those are unpublished conversations from 2017 because I really struggled with a consistent publishing rhythm. And so we are going to use those on a second publishing date, as long as they last, I would say.
Yeah. And we enjoy talking about and celebrating how people like us can not only thrive in today's world, but prosper because the world desperately needs neurodivergent humans to bring real transformation and evolution to mankind. We are the keys through the shitstorm of a one size fits all world, and that is no joke.
That is no joke, yes.
Yeah. So,
Yeah, I
wow, 2023, here we are.
2023. Yeah, Happy New Year, you all.
Happy New Year to you.
Yeah, I had some time over the holidays. The thing is, I never do New Year's resolutions because
Mhm.
I believe in when I found something that is really that makes sense and that's a good thing to do, then you should do it right away and not wait for 1st of
Mhm.
January to start with it and do just some experiments. But because other people start with their New Year's resolutions, there are so many inspirations and so many things going on that you stumble upon. So I got some inspirations over the holidays that I started implementing. One of this is that the thing to reduce friction and to publish this podcast much more regularly and in a tighter rhythm. Um,
Mhm.
and I collected some key ideas or some things I changed over the last weeks. And I came up with it. I would drop later in the episode. Um, be, Before we talk about that in detail, I would like to talk to you about finishing things and
Mhm.
especially in the context of ADHD. And we could have two ways to do this because I'm really into ChatGPT the last weeks as well.
Oh.
And so I asked ChatGPT, why is it so? I asked the AI, the generative conversational AI, ChatGPT, the question, why is it so hard for people with ADHD to finish things?
And what did
And
it say?
yeah, that I would make the suggestion. Would you like to hear right away what it did say,
Oh, hell yeah.
or would you
But
like to give your answer or your thoughts on this question before that?
no, no, no. I want to hear what it says because then
Okay,
people,
okay.
But I have to say, I have to tease you about this in a way that, so is Chat GTP, GDP or
GPT,
GPP?
GPT.
GPT. Yeah, I got them all mixed up.
It's like you just have
It's
to think about Pinocchio and Geppetto.
thank you, thank you,
That's how I
thank you.
remember it.
Thank you. That really helps me. Thank you. I always need. I have a lot of stuff in place like that to help me remember stuff because it's like for a dyslexic, the words, the stand for things, um, the abbreviation. It's like I don't know what they mean. I can't hold it in my head
Yeah.
because I mix the letters up, and
Do you
I'm
have
forever
is
having
is
to
there
look it up.
is there a word in English for those reminders? In German, it's Eselsbrücken, like a
Is I
donkey
use
donkey bridge.
yeah. Yeah. I used actually the German one
Ah, cool.
because it's the my favorite way of saying it. Isabrook. Yeah, for sure. So I have to tease you and say, so is Chat GPT your Is it your therapist or your coach now for whatever? You
Kind
have to
of.
type it in there. Why do I do this? Why do I?
Kind of. I
Hey,
mean,
hey.
the answers you get, and it's just fun. It's really fun to play around with it because
Yeah.
when it gives you an answer and then you say, okay, can you say that again, but in a Master Yoda voice, then it really takes its own
Ah.
answer and put it in a Yoda-like voice or something like that.
Oh my
So it's
God.
really, or you can dive deeper into and
Mm-hmm.
you can say, okay, thanks for that, but can you tell me more about this point and this point? And you it's like a really more sophisticated Google search, but you have
Yeah.
to keep in mind that the material ChatGPT was
Mm-hmm.
trained on is from the most recent material is from 2021. So if you
Yeah.
ask it about Chancellor Scholz, the German Bundeschancellor, then it will tell you that he is the Secretary of Finances,
Mm-hmm.
uh, because that's the information it stuck out.
Yeah, that it has.
Yeah.
I was actually listening to a podcast this morning um, about, um, how do you use it in a positive way? And it's not the end all be all, but it's not the devil either.
Yeah.
And so the podcast, I'll send you the links that we could actually put it. Let me put this down here, the link in the podcast, um, podcast link in the podcast links. Because it was really interesting. I myself, um, hold on a second, let me finish reading this. I myself haven't really dove into it because I can't be responsible, and I know that I would have such fun playing with it that and I've got stuff I have to do that is just like, don't touch it. Because I've gotten no self control with stuff like that. So I'm like, oh, isn't this fascinating? Yeah, so I haven't even cracked into it, but I've been doing a lot of reading about it.
the,
And yeah.
the phase I had in over the holidays. So now I have a little idea of how it can be used productively and
Mm-hmm.
yeah, so that it really can save you time. So should I
Mm-hmm.
read what it says as an answer
Yeah, yeah,
on
yeah,
the
yeah,
on your
yeah,
question? So
yeah.
the question, the prompt I put into ChatGPT was, why is it so hard for people with ADHD to finish things? And it answered, people with ADHD may have difficulties finishing tasks because they have trouble with sustained attention, organization, and time management. They may also have impulsive tendencies, which can lead to a lack of follow through on tasks. Additionally, people with ADHD may become easily distracted or lose interest in a task, which can make it hard for them to complete it. It's important to note that every person with ADHD is unique and may experience different challenges in completing tasks. It's also important to remember that ADHD is a medical condition and that people with ADHD can learn
Hmm.
strategies to manage their symptoms and improve their ability to complete tasks.
Interesting. That is very interesting. Um, yeah, because I was thinking yeah, they're gonna make it like one size fits all, but it's not.
No.
So I'm impressed by that. I'm impressed by that. Yeah, yeah. It's also the thing of how we ask. It's of course the data that's out there, and so the thing that fascinates me about that answer is that like, hey, we're moving forward because it's able to answer like that, because the data, there's more and more data that is more integrative and accepting. And so what would be interesting is to mark the date when you ask that, and then ask the chat GPT, say like every 6 months, the
Yeah.
same question,
Yeah.
and see what comes up. And that I think is interesting because you could see the evolution of the data and the books and the articles that are coming out that are more well-rounded and thorough. Um, the podcast that I was listening to was really good at saying how to discern, and it's difficult because some people won't discern what is good or false information. um, it's not necessarily wrong, but it's not exactly right either.
Mm.
And he used an example which I thought was really funny and interesting. He said, "What is the gender of the next female president?" And it went through this whole thing and this contortion thing of like, well, gender is a construct, or not gender. We can't, we can't talk about gender or elect people, excluding gender. So they went through this whole thing, but they didn't answer the question.
Mm-hmm.
It didn't answer the question,
Mm-hmm.
you know, but because the answer was in the question
Mm-hmm.
that that he asked, the chat GPT, so that was interesting to see that you know, it doesn't have the discernment in itself to recognize that kind of stuff. So, where it's concerning is the people who are using it and just not editing it or using their own discernment with
Mm.
it. But that's like anything, I mean, you can use it in a number of great ways. Again, that would be interesting to ask that same question every 6 months.
Or to other AIs that are going to come out. I mean, Google is working on
Mm-hmm.
Lambda, which is
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
something similar. Maybe
Mm-hmm.
some in next year around this time. Maybe there's something like a
Mm-hmm.
meta AI that you ask one question and the service asks like 5 or 10 other AIs, and then
Oh,
it gives
totally,
you.
it's coming. That's
No,
totally
it's
gonna come. Yeah. And but again, it's only what the society is putting in or producing
yeah.
is what it's gonna where it's gonna get its answers. It's like kind of like that saying, a society is only as advanced as its weakest link.
Yeah, I mean, the one thing I tried the ChatGPT thing on was that I said, okay, please write me a dialogue between Christopher Hitchens and Jordan Peterson arguing about if there's a God, and it was Christopher Hitchens in this dialogue, who's dead, by the way, since like 7 or 8 years, and he was one of the biggest atheist stars, I would say, or the debaters for atheism. He was much too nice, much too polite, not funny enough, and I think he would have had ripped a guy like Jordan Peterson totally apart if he would be still alive. But it tried. The AI tried to
That's funny.
make a real dialogue, and it was really like
Mm.
in a script, in a movie script.
Yeah.
And they were reacting on each other. In almost each answer, they were like really politely, I understand what you are saying, but I can't agree. I see it differently. It was
Which is so not what talk radio does.
no, no, not really.
They're like at each other's throats.
Yeah.
That's so funny.
But maybe it's going to, maybe it's helping to bring some debating culture
Oh,
into
wouldn't that be
life.
funny if the debating culture got nicer and because of chat GPT? That would be funny.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it's going to be, I think it's a really interesting experiment. Of course, it's here to stay. It's the next level. Um, but like anything else, it's sure it's going to be used for, um, I don't want to say evil, but, for nefarious
It's like a
uses
it's like
because humans,
yeah.
Ooh, that would be a good question. How do you keep humans from using chat GPT in a shitty way? Can you please ask that question?
Yes, I will, and I will give you the answer at
Thank
the
you.
end of the episode.
Oh, look at that. Real time, folks. Real time. So let's dive into this subject about getting things finished. It's not just ADD. There's all kinds of um, struggles for neurodivergent people in the spectrum, all kinds of different um, issues that neurodivergence and neurodiverse, the whole spectrum that people deal with. Um, so I would say let's start off by like sharing stuff that maybe we do, and so it kind of gives people a kind of an eyeball on something to bite into.
Mm.
Let's say. Do you want to go first? Do you want me to go first?
It would be cool if you could first, because I prepared some I prepared
Right, right,
some points, and maybe
right,
I'm
right.
pretty sure you have some pretty good ideas to bring to the table, or experiences.
Yeah, yeah. And and so what we're going to be including in this is the, kind of the maybe some tips and tricks that we use
Yeah.
to navigate the challenges, and maybe it'll help some people. Maybe it won't, but but at least it'll get people thinking, and each other. It's like, oh wow, okay, that's a good idea. That's a good trick, And it's like, well, that won't work for me, which is also helpful. Not just knowing what will work for us, but what won't work for us, because it gives us a broader perspective on what we really need, and what maybe can work. Um, yeah, so to start off, is something that happened this morning, and that it's like I realized that I need plenty of buffer time if I'm going to be doing something like this that we're doing with the podcast, to set myself up. And because
Mm.
I share this office space, I was watching the person who was in the office space, talking and talking, and and I was like, okay, I took my shower, I took a quick shower, and then I went in the kitchen. I was making my bulletproof matcha tea, and she was still in here,
Mm.
and I had to come and knock on the door. And by that time, I'm tense.
Mm.
I'm tense, and so I had to really be aware of my tone of voice. Because at that point I'd be like, "What the hell? I do this every Monday.
Mm.
At this time. Which of course comes to the judgment things in there of like, why don't you notice, or you don't care, okay, which is bullshit. People are carrying on with their own lives, but we put our judgments on that
Yeah.
when we start to get tense. So just to be aware of, I was trying to be aware of that, and my tone of voice when I was just like, hey, I need to get in here and set up. And first I had sent her a text. I could see that she didn't get the text. It was like almost a half hour before our thing. And then it's like, but my tension, if she's not paying attention, jumps increasingly,
Yeah.
because then, because I want to be in here. I want to be set down. I want to be calm. I want, to have my pens in the right place. I want, everything, because for me, it's the system that really supports what I do. And then I can, yeah, then I can do what I need to do. And so that was off this morning a little bit, and which can feel like a lot. A
Mm.
little bit can feel like a lot. So then I think, okay, so next time I'm going to really inform her. It's like, hey, I need this like a good 15 minutes before we press record, that we can, that I can have the time to sit down and just breathe a little bit and kind of gather myself, because just jumping in the hot seat and going
Yeah.
is very stressful. I could do it because of the ADD thing. I'm actually really good at that.
Yeah. Me too.
But there's a price for it. There's
Yeah.
an energy
That's a really
toll.
high energy price you pay for that.
Yeah, you pay an energy,
Yeah.
and so what some people call it, spoons or something. I don't know the whole thing about that. I did at one point. I read it and and then forget it. And so the and luckily with our podcast, you do all the heavy lifting, which so I don't have to.
Mm.
And so my obligation is showing up and being ready and present and absolutely there for you 110%. Um, and so I really do everything I can to do that. And I think about things, I think about subjects and little things I could share, little stories, or questions I can ask you. This is kind of what I do from my side. on this, and people who I've talked to, and guests, talking to people, and so that's one thing. And the fact that with our podcast, it just keeps kind of going forward. It has to be fun. It has to be interesting. And so, in terms of finishing, I don't know if we'll ever be finished with it. And the thing, I mean, there's certain steps that we have to be finished with. Because we're just now talking about, putting something up on, or being listed. I don't know how to describe it on Patreon, so somebody can, hey, invest in us or buy us a cup of coffee or support us in what we're doing. But again, the steps to that, we've been kind of talking about it, and so from my side, it's like whatever I can do to support you, because I'm guessing you're going to set it up, yeah. And but this is the kind of thing that, in terms of finishing, what are our expectations? I always think about that a lot. And
What helped a lot was that we didn't set any of those expectations, or
mhm.
I hate the term smart goals.
Mhm.
When we started the whole podcast, we just said, okay, we talk and we have conversations and we record
Mhm.
them, and then we
Mhm.
see where it leads us.
Mhm.
Um, and the conversations in itself mean already so much to me and are so much fun.
Yeah.
And this time thing, this buffer time thing, is a really big plays a really big part in my struggle to finish the podcast episodes in the sense of edit them and upload and publish them, uh,
Mhm.
because I don't want those conversations to end. And
Mhm.
we always like max out the time frame, or the frame of the time we need to go to pee the next time, or have the next
Right.
appointment. But we both love this conversation so much that we just max it out totally. And
Mhm.
um, then for me, this out of might, out of sight
Yes.
concept
Yeah.
comes into play, and then I end the Zoom call, and then it takes the computer like 20 minutes to convert the whole recording
Mhm.
into a format that I can work with. So I have to go away from the computer anyway, because it's really maxed out. The CPU is really maxed out and it's really working hard.
Mhm.
So I can't do that much with the computer anyway. And after that, I maybe be on the phone or started another task, and then my concentration and the whole excitement
Mhm.
channels always focus on something else, and it's really hard for me to get it back on. And then the whole week is gone, and then
Mhm.
the cycle starts new with another really cool and really inspiring conversation. And so I sent Sharon some suggestions today, that we set a tighter time frame in our block of time that we reserve. We
Mhm.
reserved like 2 hours for the podcast, and say, okay, let's put a little bit more structure in it, like 15 to
Mhm.
30 minutes time to for housekeeping and to talk about things that won't have to do directly something with the episode. Then we start
Mhm.
recording, and everything we say while we are recording is going to be in the recording normally.
Mhm.
And after we say goodbye to all you out there, to our listeners, I stop the recording so I can take the whole file, just edit it minimally, and in the best way, in the best situation, edit it, export it, and upload it like in the half hour after our conversation,
Mhm.
so that the friction is gone. And after we finish talking, it's almost like the episode is finished for publishing as well.
Mhm. Hmm.
And yeah, this reducing the friction in it is something uh, I really worked on or really thought about a lot. And there's
Hmm.
this nice saying, this ship it saying from Seth Godin, just ship it and don't be over
Yeah.
ambitious and not over perfectionist, and give yourself and all your audience and the people around it this gift of done, that it's just done and out there.
Yeah. Yeah. And what's interesting about what we're doing, and if anybody is out there that is thinking about starting the podcast, it's really interesting watching how it's evolved. And we're at this point now where organically it was like, hey, you know what? And we come to it at the same time. It's wild because he just this morning, Alex sent me a ton of messages. He was like, sorry for the spamming. And I'm like, no, I love it. In fact, it's all the stuff that I've been thinking about that we need to do to grow. And I don't mean grow in size, but evolve
Yeah,
what we're doing. And so the whole thing is just this completely organic experiment in the podcasting. Um, and I have a friend who's doing one. She started, and so she's got music. Her intro is tight. Everything, the extra is tight. Everything is tight, and ours is just so malleable and very natural. And we're totally okay with that. We don't feel the need to make it all slick and packaged. Maybe in a while it will be, but we'll reach that point when we reach that point. We're not going
yeah,
to push it. So this is an example for people with ADD. There's a saying that my mom always said. I use it a lot, and it's like you don't need to put on the gas. Just take your foot off the brake.
hmm,
And I really like it. We're actually embodying that. It's like we're not forcing this thing to be something that maybe we aren't ready to do, but we're still doing it.
yeah,
And with people with ADD, it's like, well, I can't start something because I won't finish it because, of course, we've been told that all our lives. And it's like, but what does it look like? And does it really matter?
mm,
Because Alex and I could have started this and then stopped after 6 or 8. And that would have been totally okay. So it's a lot of this, there's a lot of self permission to do things and experiment um, that needs to kind of be in place, or that you can learn to put that in place. And it's like because what's been itching for me is, and so I saved it because there's something like the Chat GPT, but for music.
hmm,
And I was like, what?
hmm,
What? Because I'm just dying to put music in the intro, but I just haven't found the right thing. And
okay,
and believe it or not, I want to create it. So I have like, the garage band, and it's like, okay, do I drop down that rabbit hole? And again, I have to be very careful which rabbit holes I drop into. It's like she's studying this, she's researching this, and nobody heard from her again, till she resurfaced 4 to 6 months later. And it's like I've got a lot of things I want to work on, so I can't really afford to drop into those kinds of rabbit holes.
so
Yeah.
I would like to give you the permission if you want to. No, I don't want to give you permission. It's
Yeah,
just
yeah, I know, I know, I
you know what I mean, right?
know. You're giving
Uh,
me encouragement.
Yeah, to play around, I can send you. I played around as well with some generative AI for music. I can send you 3 or 4
Oh,
tools that you can play around with.
okay.
And we totally, I mean, we don't need one kind of music for every intro, so you can come up
Exactly.
with another, a new title or new music like every week or for every episode.
And
So,
see, this is a thing, Alex, that I don't see anybody doing.
yeah.
It's always the same. And this is what I don't like about it.
Yeah,
And so it's
because
like,
it's
well,
branding.
what thing?
Because every
Right, the
marketing
branding, the
ex
branding, the
every
branding.
marketing expert
Hmm.
tells you have to brand, and people
Yeah.
have to recognize you. And I'm
Yeah.
always like, no, I want to be recognized to be unrecognizable because my mind is just playing around with
And
new things every time.
yeah, and I would actually anticipate somebody doing something different. It would make me want to
Yeah. What crazy
key up.
music did she come up
Yeah,
with
what did they
this
do this
week?
week?
Yeah.
So that, yeah, that can be our thing. Yeah, that's part of our branding. You never know what you're gonna get.
Yeah, at least in the
Mixed
music
bag of
part.
nuts.
But some things are really so little easy details when I said
Hmm.
I reduce friction. For example,
Hmm.
I have a notebook on my desk in the office.
Hmm.
The problem is the office is really cold in wintertime.
Mm.
And I don't want to heat all day, so I often want to sit on the couch with the notebook or just with my smartphone and work. I can work a lot on a lot of tasks. I can work with just my smartphone. Um, but I have a lot of external hard drives, up to 3 or 4 external hard drives
Hmm.
attached to my notebook. So when I want to take my computer into the living room and sit on the couch with it, I have to eject all those hard drives, and that takes like 1 or 2 minutes until it's really done.
Right.
And oftentimes I said like, "Ugh, no, then I won't. I'm not gonna do it." So I gave myself the gift of a really tiny hard drive that I attach with Velcro on the lid of the notebook, so that I can't
Oh, okay.
forget it. So
Yeah.
it's glued on there, but I can take it off if I want to, and I put some of the projects I want to work on the couch for the next day on this little hard drive, and then
Oh, that's cool.
I deattach all the others so that if I want to, I know okay, I can just pull all the plugs, grab the laptop, and go into the living room and start working there.
Love it.
So
Love it.
it's a really tiny thing, but I realized that's one extra thing that's holding me back from finishing things, and it's just
Hmm.
a technical problem. And why am I not solving this technical problem in an easy way?
Right, right. But again, you said it, perfectly with reducing the friction. It's like and I know that, and it works for me. Um, and what was, I can't think of the name of the book. It, Atomic Habits, I think, and
Yeah.
I think it's in that one. And but I've heard it before. People have written articles about it, that you piggyback and you attach things to other tasks.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Habit
Sometimes it
stacking.
works for me. Yeah, habit stacking. And so sometimes that works for me, sometimes it doesn't.
Mm-hmm.
And this is what's difficult about the ADD, the ADHD, and other types. And again, some of it I can hyper focus, and others of it I can't get traction on a particular day. Um, and things will throw me off. The high sensitivity throws me off as
Mm-hmm.
well. So, you know, and it's not the high this high stress things, because I'm really good in a crisis. It's when things get slow.
Mm-hmm.
This is where I struggle. And especially if it's slow, repetitive things, then I struggle.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and because when I'm in the moment of it and it's hot and it's exciting, I'm great.
Mm-hmm.
I'm great at that stuff, and operating like that. Here's another example. Um, one of the ways that one of the things that I put effort into is, I said this year I sent out um, cards,
Yes.
and very personalized. You got yours?
Thank you. Yeah. I didn't tell you.
I forget. Yeah, 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 yeah. Cool, cool, cool. But Alex just held up the card or the envelope, and so yeah, so I take the time and I put little designs on every single envelope. It does take time, and
And my
so I'll
girlfriend
do
and my
that.
daughter were so envious because they say, "What
Yay!
is this beautiful envelope and this beautiful
That
card?" And
Oh, that makes me so happy.
yeah,
And that's the payback for me, is like people's reaction to it. And I know, but that's also what drives me, because I imagine them people getting them in the mail.
Mm.
And I know nobody takes the time to do stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the way that I show that I care.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a connection, it's a caring thing, it's all in there.
Mm.
And so I think I sent out 30 of them this year, which is a lot of artwork to be doing.
Wow.
But what I do is in my deal with myself, and this is the piggybacking the thing, because it's having to keep my ass in a chair is a challenge, and focused on one type of thing that long, because it's, doing the envelopes is one thing, then writing the messages, that's a whole nother thing, because each one is personalized. And so what I do is I make a deal for myself is that, okay, you can binge Netflix, but you will be working on these cards.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the deal. So I've
That's
watched some pretty cool shit, and it's like some documentaries, some certain shows. It can't be something like I really like the shows from other countries, but I can't do that and read the subtitles.
yeah.
So it's a particular type of thing, and generally, kind of.
That's the reason why I never got into anime from Japan, this Japanese cartoon movies, because you always, most of all, you have to read the English subtitles. And I can't do anything else while watching those
Right.
Japanese dubbed stories. What were the best Netflix shows you binged?
Oh,
Is there a
gosh,
suggestion that comes to mind immediately?
Look, hold on, let me.
Because I said that to myself. I have to finish. I have to. Yeah, I can finish. I'm allowed to finish one more Star Wars series, the Boba Fett one.
Yeah.
On Disney Plus, and
that one was good. That one was good.
Yeah.
We've been watching.
I really like the Endor one.
Yeah, we were watching The Blacklist.
Ah, cool.
And The Blacklist, we were watching The Witcher. We went back and watched the original, the new one. Not went back and watched it. We watched the new one, the prequel, and then went back and watched it. Because I've tried to watch it a couple of times. I'm just like, meh. And then didn't really get into it. I watched or listened to, because I was watching and listening to, the Stutz. That one was interesting.
Yeah.
And what else was I watching? Yeah, Krimis. Watched the Glass Onion or something. What was it called? Yeah. And
I asked because that's what I set for the next week as well, because I really have to do my taxes. we talked about we talked about that so often, and I postponed it, and I paid so many fees already because they're like 2 years late, and I just it piles up. It just and I'm always like, okay, now you have to pay anyway. Now you can wait 2 months more, and it's at the point now where some mornings I wake up and I'm really anxious that somebody is knocking at the door and says, "Hey, we are the finance department, and now you have to pay a lot more, or you go to jail or whatever." I'm pretty sure it's not that far, but that's what's going on in my head.
Yeah, and that's hard because that gets us into
and then everything else gets hard.
Paralysis. Well. Yeah. It touches everything and it multiplies. It's the paralysis on there.
Yeah.
Yep. And the other thing I watched was of course, because it was Christmas, we watched a lot of silly Christmas shows that I could just put on, and I could kind of follow the story, so it sort of keeps me in the chair. And so there was some, a bunch of silly, low hanging fruit
that's
Christmas stories, and I would never watch stuff like that.
They're
kind of rom-commy. They're sorry. It's, rom-com type things that are totally, and they're all like white people, white affluent people, so every once in a while you'll catch one that's good. It's a little bit different, with the
But those
ethnicity and
those are the perfect series. I would say Blacklist, for example, is already or Stutz, the movie
uh-huh,
Stutz, about this therapist of
uh-huh,
Jonah Hill. Um, those are already so sophisticated. I couldn't do my taxes belong that because I really want to watch. And the Stutz thing is something I watch like 5 minutes, and then I have to stop it
uh-huh.
again. I'm still not through,
Okay.
because then I have to think about it for a week.
Mhm.
Um, but I think something like The Witcher is really cool. I would try that out.
Also, comedians, stand-up comedians.
Yeah,
I listen to a lot of stand-up comedians, and some of them I will get lost and I'll notice myself just sitting there watching them, and I don't know, get back to work. And like artwork, I can do, but the writing the message in it, I have to pause.
mm,
I
yeah,
have to pause it and then write the message. I can't listen to something and write the message at the same time.
yeah,
But the fact that I'm working myself, and it's in chunks. This is the thing. It's time chunks.
yeah,
And so then I'll get it like, okay, after this show is over, then I'll eat to make sure that I get the nutrition for my
yeah,
brain.
yeah,
Things like this. So time chunking, because just setting an alarm is just like, nah, it's
yeah.
just uninteresting to me.
Yeah, there's also this thing of you don't you don't set up a gratification in the future. You combine the gratification with the task you have to do.
Exactly. Ah, thanks for pointing that out. Yes. Yes. I try and make the thing as pleasurable as possible because the end gratification, it's funny because my long-term goals are very much like that and I'm
Yeah,
good at that.
yeah,
But the short-term shit, that doesn't work. When you're
yeah,
done with this, you can have a whatever. Plus, I don't, because I eat very, very, very little sugar. And it's like, I don't want to reward stuff like a sugar thing. And people say, oh,
yeah.
you get to do something like this. That doesn't work for me. If it's not, yeah, I have to build the fun and the reward into it. You're
Yeah,
exactly
otherwise
right.
you hurt yourself. You're not giving yourself a treat. You're
Hmm.
yeah, in the
Well, it's
long
on
run
the
you're hurting
reward
yourself.
punishment,
Yeah.
game,
It's
which I don't believe in.
Yeah, and in my I started with the keto diet as
Hmm.
well, between the holidays, because there
Ah,
was the time, and I'm
hmm.
reducing my coffee intake because my stress
Okay.
levels are still really high. I did this cortisol profile where I
Hmm.
measured my cortisol levels over 4 times in one day. Um,
Hmm.
and it showed that my cortisol levels in the end of the day are too high
Oh, okay.
because the stress is too high then. But I don't sleep well enough to build up the cortisol spike in the morning. So in the morning it's too
Mm.
low, which leads to all, also to this anxiety attacks in the morning,
Exactly.
because your
Yeah.
cortisol is a hormone that should get you out of bed, that should get you out of your comfort zone and out of the cave and go hunting
Yeah.
or salvaging berries or whatever. But you need this cortisol to get out. And when that's too low because of
Mhm,
poor sleep and other things that are off,
mhm.
then you start with low cortisol, but it doesn't
Mhm.
get any lower in the day as well, because then you are stressed out because you're not
Right, right.
accomplishing what
Mhm.
what you want to accomplish. So
It
I
becomes a
believe in that.
vicious cycle. Let me
Yeah.
ask you a question. How do you test? How are you testing it?
It's a test from a customer of mine. You get 4 of those little savillets. It's
Mhm. Yeah.
what you normally like those tampon-like things you get at the dentist.
Mhm.
Sometimes you
Yeah.
put it for a
Mhm.
minute in your mouth, Then it's full of saliva. You put it in a little tube, in a test tube, and put it in the fridge for the rest of the day. And then you have 4 of those test tubes with saliva tests in it, and then you send it to them, and they get it to the laboratory, and they analyze it.
That's kind of cool. How much does it cost? Is it expensive?
It's about 65 euros, I guess,
Per test?
for the 4 tests per day.
Okay, and
And
then you
one
have to
day is
send
enough.
it. Yeah.
And
Okay.
they send it in. You send it to the company, and then they send it in to the laboratory. Yeah.
That's interesting. Yeah.
I mean, they
We
did
should
this
we
whole
should
blood
put
work.
that the link to that thing in there. That's
Yeah.
really cool. I would love to have, the kind of budget where I could do all kinds of tests all the time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean
Ah.
the whole thing. I did this whole blood work test with them, which was really helpful. And then they say they tell you which micronutrients you should take in which doses.
See, that's what I want to know. Yeah.
And I mean the whole thing together with the cortisol stress profile analysis would be, I guess, around 800 euros or so. Um,
Wow. Mm.
but I mean, I didn't have to pay it. Disclaimer: they did it for me, so that I can write content about it,
Oh,
and I can test it. But it was really helpful.
yeah.
They discovered that my and we talked about that in the later episodes that are going to come out this year. I already told that, but they discovered that my thyroid values were much too low, like 20-fold too low, which means
Oh,
that I
wow.
was 20 times in hyperthyroidism. So I was really stressed out. I was in a constant state of alertness without knowing it. Without it was so slow.
Wow.
It was such a slow progress in this high anxious alertness state that I didn't realize it. So I called my doctor, and my doctor said, "Yeah, okay, so we reduce your hormones, your thyroid hormones, because I had taken my thyroid out in 2006." So 16 years I'm taking this stuff, and sometimes it just has to be adapted because of lifestyle, how
Yeah.
much sport you are doing,
By the
how much
way.
stress, and he said, okay, we are reducing your dosage, and then we do another test in 4 to 6 weeks. And then the whole birthdays in our family happened, and we were all a little bit sick every week, and yeah, then it was like 10 or 12 weeks later, and in the week before Christmas, I called my doctor and said, can I have, before the holidays, can I have my thyroid values tested, please? And then he was really angry. He called me up and he was really angry and said, and I don't know if you are if you are not taking your medicine altogether, or if you're taking totally wrong, but your values are completely off. And I say, Doc, yeah, they are like 5 times worse now, but in the other direction. So I was really tired now. I wasn't in this alert state anymore.
Yeah.
The pendulum swung in a complete different direction. But it was, I said,
Okay.
in 2 months ago, it was like 20 times worse in the other direction, and now it's like at least 5 times worse in
Wow.
the other. So it's working. We just have to adjust. And he said, okay, yeah, I didn't think about it. Okay, so then we adjusted this and that, and then we really see us again in 4 weeks, and that will be next week, and I have to test it again.
Okay. Okay.
But
Wow. Interesting.
that is so powerful, and that is so important to get these things really down. And that's also the reason why I started getting back in on the keto diet over the holidays, because I wanted to dial in the diet at least 2 weeks before the next test, because it also influences the thyroid hormones. So if I
Yeah.
get off the keto diet and eat like a standard diet again, maybe with lots of carbs, lots of sugar, which
Right,
I did
right.
for like the last 3 months before Christmas. Since late summer, it got worse and worse. Or it got more intensive on the carb and sugary side.
Hmm.
And then I have to test again. So I hope that knowing, okay, you have to reevaluate your hormones if you get off the keto diet again. I hope that's a lot of motivation to keep me on that as long as possible.
Yeah. And just to let people know, it's like I also I'm not on the keto diet, but it's not far off from that. And I don't have really such minimal sugar, very minimal white wheat carbohydrates. It's very minimal, and it's got to be, complex carbohydrates are the better ones for me. A number of different things like that, and I really use nutrition to balance
Yeah,
the and to remove the peaks and crashes in energy. It's
yeah,
for me. It's like I need a long, slow burn, and that way I function better. And it's not, it's the hypersensitivity as well. So it's not just the ADHD; it's the hypersensitivity, which it makes everything better.
yeah,
So it's like paying attention to nutrition
yeah.
and a balanced nutrition is so key. And both
I mean, it
Alex
often
and I
has
have
it
have
often
kind of
has to do
experience in that.
it often has not only have to do with what you keep out, like the sugar, but what you keep
Hmm.
in. This company
Hmm.
I was talking about, which does this tests, the founder of the company, he is a sports scientist by trade, and
Hmm.
he's doing those micronutrient. He's working in this field for like 25 years or so, and he tested over 60,000 people and did several own studies. And he did one study with ADHD children, I think
Hmm.
with 147 or 148 children. And he put them on a special diet plan, which is really similar to a ketogenic diet plan.
Hmm.
And supplemented. He tested the micronutrients levels of all the kids, and then every kid got his or her individual recipe for micronutrients. Um, and the the switching of the diet is like getting a
Hmm.
baseline and getting a solid foundation. But when there are still micronutrients missing
Hmm.
on a real high level, then you can't get this back just through nutrition.
Hmm.
And I think from those 140-ish kids, it was like 70 or 80% didn't need to take any medication after 3 months of
Right, right.
the change of diet and the micronutrients, and that's really
Hmm.
really powerful if
It's
if
well,
you know
it's a
what's missing.
huge difference for me. Huge difference for
Yeah.
me. I could tell, like if I eat, because we have a thing. It's a good example. Yeah, we have Saskia and I do a thing called Hybrid Humans Cafe. So on the first and third Friday of every month, we host this thing. And so it's about all about coffee and French pastries. And so we go, pop out in the morning early and go and get these, a
Hmm,
box of
hmm,
French
hmm.
pastries. And I mean, so that's pretty much the only sugar stuff, but it's not like a refined sugar, like nasty stuff. This is like high end French, French pastries. So this is what I tell myself, right? Right. I'm pretty good at justifying it, but it's if it's every couple of weeks, it's not that big a deal.
Yeah.
But man alive, can I tell? And I do not plan anything
Yeah.
in that day. And of course,
Yeah.
it's on Friday. So then Saturday and Sunday follow. So I don't really have to,
Yeah.
but I would never do that on a Monday
Yeah.
because it would affect me all the way into Wednesday.
Yeah.
And so I'm very, very careful what I plan for the days following
Yeah.
because it's not just you eat it and then a couple hours later you're normal. It's like no, that stuff stays in your system, and it's not so much the sugar for me in that situation because it's again it's like the healthiest thing in terms of sweets that you could be eating.
Mm.
But yeah, we work our way through a whole plate full and and coffee. It's quite a bit of coffee. Um, See what we do for our fans, and we suffer for you guys.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah, but it's also
but it's also
how easy you are making
yeah,
it for yourself.
yeah. I'm really, really, again, it's that thing of reducing the friction. If I'm
Yeah.
going to do it, man alive, I'm fully aware of where I have to pay on the other end of the equation. And so the fact that, like I said, the fact that it's on Friday, we do it, our thing is between 11 and 1.
Mm.
And so I know that I'm probably going to need to take a nap later on
Mm.
in the day and reboot.
Yeah. Yeah, but when you
and Thursday and afterwards, it's like I'm eating
mm.
super clean food to kind of it's like preparing my system for um, beforehand, and then afterwards, it's like the cleansing
Yeah.
of eating that stuff,
Yeah,
and it's
but
good stuff.
it's so important
Uh,
to be aware of that and to I
mhm.
mean living in you are
Yeah.
living in France and you are getting these
Uh,
French pastries like
yeah.
from this
Yeah.
source
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
holding back on that could might
Hmm.
end in more frustration than it
Hmm.
would help instead of saying okay
Well,
I
yeah.
allow
Mhm.
myself once a week
Exactly.
to go wild and
Yeah. And it's every 2 weeks, so
yeah
it's not
every
every
2 weeks
week.
yeah every 2 weeks
But and again, I could tell chemically my body is because the next day or so, it is screaming for
and
sugar
yeah
and the fast carbohydrates. It's crazy.
but that is
It's
important
crazy
as
how
well
much
I
your body
think
wants that.
yeah
Yeah. Yeah.
to realize that and what impact it has on your
Yeah.
body and how long it
Hmm.
does take to get back to your baseline is
Hmm.
I think really helpful so
Hmm.
allowing yourself once every 2 weeks to go crazy on pastry shows you how you are not it shows you are not missing out on anything
Hmm.
because
Hmm.
you're allowing yourself the yummy stuff from time to time but
Hmm.
then you also really feel what it means for your body to
Hmm.
take that in and you have the strategies and the knowledge on how to get it out of your system and to get back in your habits
Right.
that you don't get
Right.
stuck on it because for a lot of
Right.
people it's like then on Saturday, or now it's Saturday, it's weekend. So yesterday I had it anyway. I can have it today now, and now it's Sunday.
Hmm.
I can have some pastry on
Hmm.
Sunday because I had it
Hmm.
yesterday and on Friday as well. So why not today? And then you have the Monday, and you go like, ah, it's the beginning of the week and it's Monday
Oh,
anyway,
it's
and I don't
already, it's
like it.
fine. Yeah.
So now I can, and then you are eating pastry all the week again when you are
Right.
not
And
have
this is
this
why
comparison.
it, right, right. And I'm aware of this. This is so funny to use this as an example, but it's true. And Saskia will save hers. She won't eat the whole thing. I chow mine down during two
Yeah, me
hours. You
too.
watch me have a total sugar coffee rush. Yeah.
Yeah.
I am into it,
Uh,
right? Because and the
Bring
taste of it,
it
because of
on.
course with the sensory thing, the high sensitivity, it's like the coffee and the this and that. I'm pouring myself more coffee, eating more pastry, and but it's like like yeah, all my senses are just like into it, and but it's like I have to finish it that day because
Yeah.
I'll do exactly what you just described. If I don't finish my portion, and I know I can't touch her portion, and then of course we have Lydia in the house, so she gets a third kind of whatever we're doing. unless it's super yummy. Then I'm like, oh, I
Mm.
don't know what happened to that one. And oops. And but it's yeah, no, I have to finish mine on that day, on the
Uh,
Friday.
uh,
I can't have anything left over, or else I'll do exactly what you said because
mm,
my body is just absolutely screaming for it. And I think a lot about people who have a thing for sugar.
mm.
I'm lucky because I don't. My jam is salty stuff. Like I said, I can murder a bag of chips or three, and that I have no self control over. But I do. What my body's asking for after I have a dose of sugar and the white wheat. Um, you know, ingesting it, it's crazy. And I imagine for a lot of people, most people, that's almost painful to have your body just absolutely insisting on that all the time and you
Yeah.
can't turn it off. And yeah, what a struggle that would be. Because I could
Yeah.
hear the chips calling from the cabinet. If they're in there, I could hear them.
Let us
Come
out.
on, come on, just do a small bowl. Come on, come on. You know, but it's not as devastating, to my energy levels as the sugar and the wheat, the white wheat. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you still you have to build up this kind of momentum, this flywheel that's building up and building up, and
Yeah.
when it's once running, and you have the momentum, then those little disturbances of the force will not throw you off the wagon totally until you still have this flywheel running. Another example,
Yeah.
what
Well,
I
it's a
done.
habit. It becomes, if the nutrition,
Yeah,
if you can do it long enough and in a way that it becomes a habit, um, then it's much easier
yeah, and you
because then
can.
you have something to go back to, and that's kind of food you already have in the house.
That's the
Um,
point. I mean,
and so, yeah,
you can make it much easier for yourself if you
that's
don't
the
have
removing the friction.
if you yeah if you don't have it in your house. If you just
Yeah,
buy
yeah,
the three pieces you want to eat in 2 hours in one day, and you don't
exactly.
buy it as a stash
Yeah,
that you put away, because then
exactly.
you're going to. The other example I wanted
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
put in there, which was the momentum thing on the one hand side, but making it easy on the other hand side. I realized I'm on my 71st day of consecutive blogging for every day. At least
Okay.
it's almost longer, because there was just 1 or 2 days in between where I missed it because I didn't believe in those streaks, and I didn't want to make it this streak thing with consecutive
Yeah.
days. And then suddenly without the intention, I was in there. And after I passed like the
Hmm.
40th day of doing it every day, I
Hmm.
realized, that feels quite good to see
Yeah.
that you are on it for that long already. And now
Yeah.
I mean, what made the change for me, for example, was that I started blogging on my WordPress blog, which I have like in different iterations. I have a WordPress blog since 15, 16 years now. And before that,
Hmm.
I was also blogging, but in another technical environment, which was not really a blog technically, but I would say I do things like blog publishing since more than 20 years.
Hmm.
But I started blogging on my iPhone in the WordPress app, because the editor looks different, because
Huh.
in you are writing in paragraphs. So every thought you have is one paragraph. And I allowed myself to say, you want to blog, and you want to make a blog that you want to read yourself, that's interesting to me,
Right.
that I
Right.
can go on my own blog and read it and have fun just reading it. Read the stuff that's 3 months old, for example. So I allowed myself again to say, okay, you just blog like it's 2006 or 2007.
Mm-hmm.
If you find an interesting video, if you find an interesting link, if you hear an interesting song, you just block this song with like 3 words in it, in a posting, with like 3 words that remind myself why it's cool. You don't have to push it in every social media channel, but
Yeah.
you put it on your blog, and when you want to see something interesting, you can go to your own blog and just scroll through it, and you think, I totally forgot about that.
Yeah.
And the change to switch to my phone and not to my computer, technically, because I have it in my pocket all the time. I write blog postings for the next 3-4 days, sitting on the toilet, standing in the line at the supermarket cashier, brushing my teeth, whatever. I often stand there and think, oh, that's something you can post, and
Right.
put it on a schedule like 3-4 days up front, and so I build up this streak. And then I find things, or then I have thoughts where I think, okay, you can block this, and through this posting every day, I have
Mm-hmm.
some kind of, several, like between 80 and 200 visitors a day anyway. So
Mm-hmm.
there's this baseline of people that give me the feeling I'm not doing it only for me. There are people caring about what I'm writing,
Yeah.
but I don't care if they come or not.
Right, right, right. That's how I kind of do this stuff. What I do on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
I'm interested. I was listening to you, and I was paying attention. But as I was like, what? You could have that on. I didn't know you could have the WordPress on the phone thing. So that's really interesting. I'll ask you
That's
more
really
about
cool.
that later. I
The
think
thing
that
that
would
held me
really
back,
serve me.
yeah,
That would
absolutely.
serve me. The
The
immediate gratification of it
yes,
is 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 something that would absolutely reduce friction
to
and allow me to do things in the moment.
and it
Yeah.
yes, it is the instant gratification of I
Hmm.
finished this posting, and I know it's going to be online in 5 days or
Hmm.
6 days. I don't care. It's just I know it's
Hmm.
finished. It's automatically been published in the next days, and
Hmm.
everything that's on top, everything that crosses my mind, and I think like, okay, that is something I want to publish right now. Uh, okay, that then I throw out there right in that moment, and maybe publish it
Hmm.
to Twitter, to Instagram, to Facebook, to LinkedIn, to Xing, what
Hmm.
social media I would like to in that moment, to get more feedback, because that's
Hmm.
something that makes it fun to me as well. When I
Hmm. Hmm.
not only see there are people caring, but when there's constructive feedback coming back, like, hey, have you thought about
Hmm.
this?
Hmm.
Or there's an interesting link
Hmm.
according to this. Or sometimes people talk to me and they call me up and
Is
say,
it
oh, I just read
feedback or is it interaction? Is it feedback or interaction or a little bit of both?
a little bit of
Because
both.
for me, I would say the interaction, because the feedback, it's like, wow, that was a good post. I don't want to necessarily hear that. I want interaction.
Yeah,
It's like you said, it's like, wow, that made me think about this. This is kind of like what I'm after when I do them.
it's
Um,
kind of both.
okay. Hmm.
It's
Hmm.
kind of both,
Hmm.
and it reduces my urge of perfectionism and
Hmm.
the
Hmm.
anxiety
Hmm.
of you have to do
Hmm.
the perfect personal branding, content marketing, buzzword blog post that I teach other people in companies to do.
To let go of. Oh,
Yeah,
okay. To do. Hmm.
to do and to let go of.
Hmm. Hmm.
Sometimes you have to teach people when they are writing for their company and they are not totally responsible for what they're doing, or they have to take the responsibility for the whole company for what they're writing.
Hmm.
There has to be a certain level of perfectionism in it, but when you're doing for yourself, it's something completely different.
Right.
And then it's easier to measure your own progress. That's a concept I came across again. That I mean, I don't have a goal with the blog. I just want to do it. And of course,
Right.
I want to accomplish something with it, but I don't know what. I want to be
Right.
surprised with what I can accomplish. It's the same with the podcast. We don't have a
Mm-hmm.
goal like we want to reach 100,000 neurodivergent people up to 2024. We could
Right.
set this goal, and I'm pretty sure we could reach that goal, but it would hinder me more, and I think you too, than it would
Yes. Yeah.
help
Yeah.
us.
Well, again, it's the thing of the motivation and to be aware. Again, so much of this stuff, I keep coming back to it. So much of it is about awareness, um, which is if we're not aware of it, how can we affect it? How can we reduce the friction? How can we,
Yeah.
find a workaround? But if we're aware of it, then it's like, okay, that's the first step. Then it's like, well, what do we want? So that's the next step. What do we want out of it, and what do we want it to be like? What do we want to do? What do we prefer? It's because the wording around it. Definitely none of the should do and have to. Those are forbidden. Because I mean, there's so much stuff that we should do and have to do. There's
Yeah.
enough of that shit in our lives, and so it's like, what do we want to do? How do we want it to be? How do we want to, like, our system of operation to be? But to be aware of it, then we can get it closer to how we operate best.
Mm.
Again, that thing of writing the manual of me,
Yeah.
that you could, like, what would that look like to write something like that you could hand to somebody and say, hey, I'd like to work on this project. Here's how I work best. But if we're not aware of how we work, how the hell would we know what to tell other people?
Yeah.
This is super interesting because am involved with a number of groups of communities in the DAO communities, the decentralized autonomous organizations. And the newest one is it's women. It's French based, and so I'm actually going to Paris in February. But when I talk to these people, it's like, okay, here's what I'm interested in. Here's what I could do. Here's how I work best. And so that then they know, like, how they can use me.
Hmm.
Where do I fit in? But if we don't know that, we're letting somebody else delegate where to use us and how to use us. And then if we're having a hard time and struggling, how would they know? Whereas if I, like, I'm super transparent about it and say, you know, okay, if you need help in doing administrative or this or that, I'm not your animal. I'm not the
Hmm.
animal that's going to do that. And if you need this or that, okay, that's not my thing either. But here are the things that I'm good at and that I really like.
Hmm.
And these are the things that are fun for me. So if you need help in these areas, let's talk.
Hmm.
Um, but again, I see a lot of people getting caught up in what they should be able to do. Is just strip it back, and try the experiment of having, again, step one is the awareness of what we're good at. Then the step two is what do we want?
Yeah.
How do we want to work? But
What
all this
what
stuff is one of the DAOs is like future of work. It's like, so helping people, you know, help each other figure that out. Yeah.
one thing I figured out about how I want to work, I just have to make a picture of it.
Hmm.
I mean, some people say you have this you have to have this totally clean desk and this minimalism, and so I came across the topic or the hashtag of cluttercore the last
Clutter core.
cluttercore week. which is the total opposite
I
of
love it.
minimalism and Marie Kondo. And some of those videos you see on TikTok or on Instagram are really over the top for me. Some are really beautiful, like
Hmm.
walls crammed with stuff, but with beautiful stuff and curated
Hmm.
stuff, and
Hmm. Hmm.
the stuff is
Hmm.
sorted in some kind of
Hmm.
way. But every person who claims to be a minimalist would like
Hmm.
run away when that's would be their apartment.
Hmm.
Um, but I came. I think it was a yearly review video of I think Ali Abdal, who said, okay, he started to put candles on his desktop,
Hmm.
and I really like that idea. So I have at least one scented candle lit up on my desk when I'm working here.
Yeah. Hmm. Hmm.
And that smells nice.
Hmm.
Just looking at this flame makes it a little bit more warm because it's
Hmm.
freaking
Hmm.
cold in here. And I would like to put this candle under the table and hold my feet up to it, but that would end in a disaster, I guess. Uh, and another thing was that I came up um, last year. When no 2021 when Corona no 22 when Corona started, and I thought,
Hmm.
okay, now I have to really be all the time in the home office. I need a new monitor because my old one is really small. And I bought one of those ultra wide monitors
Hmm.
without realizing, when you are so short sighted as I am, you can only see the things that are really right in front of my eyes in the same distance. And like looking 20 centimeters to the left or to the right is already harder to see for me in some situations.
Okay. Hmm.
So I don't really profit that much from this wide monitor. And I thought, okay, how can I make this thing at least a little bit useful? And I started collecting some wallpapers of nature scenes and of some beautiful wallpapers, but they are all much too distant. I didn't look at them. Uh, I didn't really like that much to look at them. So then over the holidays, I thought, okay, what would you like to see, or what would it like to be working? And I think you and your background, this velvety red background, really
Hmm.
inspired me, because I started looking for wallpapers that show really old libraries or really
Oh,
old
nice.
study rooms. But with a twist, I looked
Mm.
only for those pictures that give me a point of view like I am in the scene, not an art, not an architectural photography or detailed photography. I looked especially for pictures that look like I am sitting at a desk in this room. So
Nice.
on the left side of my, and I sent you a photo, and I put a
Hmm.
photo in
Yes.
in the show notes. On the left side of my monitor and on the right side of the monitor, I see right now the music room from Hans Zimmer, from this
Mm.
composer, this movie composer, which looks also really
Hmm.
red, warm, and velvety and cozy, but
Hmm.
really large and really
Hmm.
big. And it's like, okay, when we,
Hmm.
I don't know, when we have like 25 million
Hmm.
listeners, then maybe I can have such a room for myself. I don't know if I really want
Hmm.
something like that, but it really
Yeah.
looks so cozy and so inspiring.
Right. Right.
And that's like, okay, I found another little detail to make work or to make some task at least more beautiful and more sneak some beauty in it,
Hmm.
in
Hmm.
the daily work.
Hmm. Yeah. Now, what you're saying really, really touches me, because it's like I have listed in, my profile in this last, I don't know, last 6 months. I finally found a name for the thing that I do in
Hmm.
that field, and it's called an ambiance alchemist. And
Yeah,
so
that's cool.
helping people figure out what kind of ambience they want
Oh, yes.
to work in or surround themselves with. And it's super important. But this is part of where the high sensitivity really helps, because I'm so sensitive to that, and I have to have a nice ambiance. Otherwise, that is definitely friction. And in terms of removing a friction, it is arranging my space, and it's coming. This brings us full circle
Yeah.
back to what was stressful about having to come in here really quick and set up within 30 seconds. Any place I need to come in, and if I need to move stuff around, and I do what I call set design. People go, why do you need to move that? And I'm like, because I need to move that.
Hmm.
That needs to be over here. That
Hmm.
needs to be over here. So I do kind of set designing any place that I am. And this includes if I'm in a hotel room or if I'm in an Airbnb or something, there might be something in the ambiance if I'm sitting somewhere that is just, I can feel it. It's in the wrong place.
Yeah.
And so I'll just move it. I'm not going to move major stuff or anything like that. But when I look at the pictures of a place to rent it, this is all part of it.
Mm-hmm.
I can't rent a place that I won't feel good in
Hmm.
just because it's cheap and close to what I want to do. It's like,
Hmm.
no, no, no. I will I will spend the time on Airbnb finding the place that I feel good in.
Yeah. Because
and
otherwise it
and but
would.
then it has to have good reviews. It has to be clean. It has to be all this stuff. But it's like, man alive, the ambiance is everything.
Hmm.
It's like, where do we feel good?
Hmm.
And that's a huge part of removing friction. Because if we have to just endure the space we're in,
Yeah.
it's like, I feel really bad. You keep mentioning about how it's so cold in your thing. I'm like, huh? Do you do you have hot water bottles?
Yeah.
You should use them. You should have two. You should have one
Yeah.
for
We
like
have
your lower
to.
back, because you have one at your lower back, and then you have one that you put your feet on.
I would go with
Yeah.
one under my feet and one above my feet because as a thyroid patient, you have
Mm-hmm.
really trouble with the blood flow in
Mm-hmm.
hands
My
and the
feet are
hands.
always cold.
The
My
hands
feet
are
are
not the
always cold.
problem, but the feet are
Yeah.
really getting
Yeah.
on my nerves sometimes, and
Yeah.
that's a good idea.
Yeah.
I would try that out.
Yeah. Try and bring some, like you said, some warmth into it. And sometimes it's even just the suggestion, like with your candle.
Mm.
Um, yeah, it really helps. And you could do a thermos even of hot tea, even if you don't drink it. You
Yeah,
know it's there,
yeah, and
and it's
just
this
hold on.
subliminal stuff. Yeah, and every once in a while you're just like, oh, okay, yeah, I
Yeah,
have that, and yeah, it really helps. The
yeah.
ambiance, people discount the ambiance all the time, um, and it's one of the most important ingredients. Yeah.
Another thing I realized, it's a little tiny detail, but I
Hmm.
came across the app Good Task, and I don't really
Mm.
believe in to-do lists, but I like to play around with them. And
Hmm.
but the most of the to-do list apps I checked out, they lasted for 2 or 3 weeks, and then I went back to the inbuilt Apple reminders and Apple alarm
Hmm.
clocks, and so because they are so easy to use and they are so intuitive to use. And then
Yeah.
I found Good Task, and that app is really cool because it sits on Apple reminders and on Apple
Oh.
Calendar. So it's just another way to organize your to-do list, your Apple
I'm
reminders,
downloading these things, getting these apps as you're speaking, as you're telling me. So I'm like, really,
and
I
the
think
Apple
I think I
Calendar.
need that.
So
I'll try it.
I use Apple Calendar
Mm-hmm.
and Apple Reminder
Mm-hmm.
because they are
Mm-hmm.
Apple and they just
Mm-hmm.
look beautiful and they are quick and I can use them from my watch. But when I really
Mm-hmm.
sit down, and that's something I really struggle with, this weekly or monthly reviews, or sit down in the evening and plan the next 1 or 2 days.
What? What? Monthly review. What? Weekly review? I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, I mean, I
I
didn't
should do them regularly. I
I
should do them regularly. I
I didn't
swear.
as well. The good task makes it a little bit easier because
Okay.
it pulls together calendar and reminder. I have everything in one place, and it's really
Mm-hmm.
it's easy to customize so that it works the way I want and not the app wants, and the computer doesn't boss me around. And it uh, the last 2 weeks since I'm using it, I don't do it every evening, but every evening I find the time, and if it stresses me out, or if I have something else to do, or if the kid says, "Can you read me a book or so?" I am not going to do it. It's not that important. But when I find the time
Mm-hmm.
and push around the tasks for next day, or push some into next week, like doing taxes, um,
Mm-hmm.
that's something that makes it easy to sit there at the end of the day and pat myself on the back and say, okay, you accomplished several things, because I look in the task I checked off and I see, oh, you feel like you didn't accomplish anything today, but looking at your list here, it says you ticked off like 12 or 13 tasks. That's fucking a lot.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah. Yeah.
I can go asleep with knowing you have at least a slight idea of what you are going to do tomorrow,
Mm-hmm.
and what you
Yeah.
have to do, and
Mm-hmm.
what you can push away a little bit further, and it's not like overwhelming me the next day, the white paper or the white calendar
Mm-hmm.
with like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, what should I do today? I have no idea. I just start surfing around, and then half the day is gone. Or what do I have to do today? And it's like 30 tasks that piled up over the last week, and I totally lost track. So it really helped me.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So I'm going to look into that one. Excellent. Well, I don't know if anybody else is going to get any use out of this, but this was great.
Yeah, excellent.
I got some tips, and it also made me look at yeah, what I already do and what I want to add to, and yeah, and kind of stack more onto
Yeah.
some of the things that I already do. So yeah, no, that was a this has been a good one.
Oh, yeah.
Useful,
So we could end
useful.
with
Yeah.
the answer of
Hmm.
ChatGPT on the question, how are you going to keep
Oh yes.
from using ChatGPT in a shitty way? I didn't forget, and maybe next time
Ah.
we bring back the downhill parking. So
Hmm.
the answer was, there are a few ways to prevent chatbots like GPT from being used in a way that is harmful or inappropriate. First, educate users about appropriate and inappropriate use of chatbots. Second, set clear guidelines and terms of service for chatbot use and enforce those guidelines where necessary. Third, use moderations and filters to prevent inappropriate content from being generated by the chatbot. Fourth, continuously monitor and evaluate the chatbot's output and make adjustments as needed to improve its performance and ensure that it is being used appropriately. And fifth, involve the community in helping to identify and address any inappropriate uses of the chatbot. And ultimately, it is important for developers and users of chatbots to be responsible and mindful of the potential impact of the technology on society. Not so bad.
Wow. I'm impressed. I'm impressed because it's kind of what the guys in the podcast this morning were saying, that it's hard to monitor. It's hard. This does make it hard. And who's responsible, for policing? And of course, people are, freedom of speech, and which is true, but at the same time, you don't want it to turn into a mosh pit, of a bunch of assholes.
And the
So
fun,
it's interesting that
yeah,
Chat GPT says just that. Is it like, no, 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 we need some monitoring, which is great because it's like it gives it a thing about itself, which is very cool. I
I
like
have a
it.
down. I have a downhill parking now.
Okay.
Maybe. downhill parking for us means we write something down that we might or might not talk in one of the next in one of the next episodes. But I would really like to talk to you about freedom of speech from a American perspective, but one that also knew the European and especially the German perspective and my German perspective, because I think the when you describe the general American definition of freedom of speech, it's something completely different than the German one.
That would be interesting, especially if we tie it into, the neurodivergence
Yeah, of course.
subject matter, and it's like what do we, it's like the thing with people saying, what's appropriate and inappropriate, and the triggering factors, and what do we have, where are the lines in that. So yeah, that would be an interesting, could be an interesting topic or side topic, a side dish in the buffet. Not
Yeah,
necessarily not necessarily a main course.
that's right. Cool. So I will start now to
Excellent.
export the show notes, and then I will start to edit the episode. And I hope I have the next appointment at 2 o'clock that I get through. Then, so
Okay.
I, for my part, say thank you for this wonderful
Yeah.
episode, this first episode of
Yeah.
2023 and the first of our second season. That's really exciting.
Yes. Yeah. 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 Have a celebration for that.
Bird.
And walk walk.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, thanks everybody for joining us, and we'll see you next time.
Yeah. Bye bye. See you
Bye.
or hear you.
Yeah.